Hey, it's Jose Galison of No Way Jose. You can find me on the No Way Jose YouTube channel. You can also find me on all the major podcatchers and Odyssey as well. Let's forget to mention that. Today I didn't do the intro. It got hit for copyright. IP is fucking lame. I don't know what to tell you. So I don't know. I think I might try to have my homie make a shorter version. Maybe I've heard if it's like under 30 seconds, it doesn't get dinged. I don't know. I'm a tech idiot. Today my guest is Clint Russel of Liberty Lockdown. This is a live stream for those watching now, but it will only be available for now. I say this, but the last one I think I forgot. Got really busy and forgot to put it unlisted for like a day or two. But anyways, this is pretty much your chance to watch it now if it's live. If not, I will release it later. So those people that can get it in the meantime are my patrons. It'll be available on my Patreon, and also for my patrons, they get to drop chats, and I give them secret code words. That way, I know it's them, and they don't have to super chat if they want to. If they want to give me super chats, whatever, that's cool. Today the topic is the Ling chapter of the Anarchist Handbook, and I wanted Clint to come on because I just feel like he very much embodies the spirit of Ling in this current day and age, and it just magically works out too. He just looks like a bald version of him. So, God, there's something else I wanted to address. Oh, sorry, I got late. For those who are waiting, we hopped on Tower Power Hour. I was trying to do it real quick, then hop out, and Spike was on there, and he's a long-winded fella, so it was hard to escape. But it should be a good episode, so you guys should check that out. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and bring on the homie. What's up, dude?
Just fucking throwing bombs over here, brother. Getting ready to rock.
Yeah, just like fucking Ling. Yeah,
I love that piece, by the way. It is great. I had read it years ago, but I hadn't read it recently.
Yeah, it's fucking powerful, and it's like, especially when you know like the context in which it happens, you're like, fuck. Nolan Harris. I'm very glad I mentioned Clint for this. I know I said I would only do wouldn't do super chats, but yeah, for those who want a little bit of backstory, I initially was going after Shu for this. She never fucking hit me back up. Which, you know what, I'm not one who believes in God, but if there is a God, I think he kind of hooked me up there, because then I was like, well, I'll do it, because I was like, I figured I'd do it for like my 100th episode, and I was like, I was gonna have it be me, because I actually see very much, because I'm trying to, with the people I select for these, is people that embody these characters, and for me, like,
let's be honest, I embody Ling a little bit more than Shu.
But my point I was getting is young me. Like, a lot of people know I joined the military and stuff, and I joined because I had this like I joined from this like love of liberty. It was just that I was retarded. I was young, dumb, and full of cum, and I just was like, I'm gonna go save the world and go kill Hajis, and that's not exactly how that works. But like, so I had that spirit, that very much like the Ling spirit of I will do violence in order to promote liberty. I just was misguided, as I would actually say Ling was as well. But that's neither here nor there. That's not really the point of this. But yeah, anyways, yeah, Nolan, this guy, he brought it up because I was going to do me, and then I think it was like on I don't remember. No, I did a live stream, and I was talking about the people I selected for different channels, and someone said, you should do Clint. And I was like, and it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, how the fuck did I not think of Clint? Because I had actually been thinking, like, is there anything that would fit Clint? But like, I guess since Ling's a lefty, it didn't click, and then
right.
But then, like, when someone said it, I'm like, oh, fuck, you're right. Like, he is a perfect Ling. And so I'm really glad that worked out. Oh, yeah, for everyone watching, too, if you want me to mention anything or, questions or whatever, just drop a super chat, and I will do it at the end. So this is because we're going to be doing a reading and kind of expounding on it throughout as we go, because it's a pretty short piece. So I just read the whole thing. It's also powerful, so I don't, but yeah, anyways, I forgot to do my plugs real quick. I'll do Tops. That's the only one I care about. The homie TopLobsta. Go check out his shit, toplobsta.com. I literally have a TopLobsta shirt on right now, the High on Liberty with the Ron Paul shirt, and you have I think that's yours, but he made it for you, the design. So
yeah.
I
can't. Can I show you?
Oh, I see it. Yeah. So Top is the absolute man. He really is like the best among us. He does so much work. It's insane. He deserves everything he gets. But yeah. So Clint, if you could go ahead and intro yourself real quick for those who don't know. I know
Sure.
Pete Quinones likes to do it for first time. I do it for every time. For one, it takes up time, and two, it's like I have such a small following it's getting bigger and bigger. It's like it could be someone's first time every time. So it's good to give an intro of who you are. So
yeah, I'm Clint from Liberty Lockdown. I am a former private money mortgage broker turned into a Liberty ranter via the lockdowns, and very much did not have any interest in being in this field, but I felt a calling about May of 2020, started my show, and since then I've been on, Free Mind Beyond the Wall with P. Quinones, and Part of the Problem with Dave Smith, and Timcast IRL with Tim Pool, and just been all over. Also a member of the Tower Power Hour, and yeah, thank you for having me, man. This is, after reading this, I was like, yep, I'm ready.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's definitely something. And you know what? Like, I also wanted this one to be special, and then I got you.
I'm gonna make this special, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, but Louis Ling is like, for those who haven't read the Anarchist Handbook, he's like the centerpiece of this book. He's literally the cover art, and for Michael Malice, he's brought him up before many times. Even before he made the Anarchist Handbook, he would be one he would cite as a a beacon of anarchy. And like, even though I know me and you would probably say that it's misguided, but the spirit's here. It's like that GIF with Will Smith or whatever. So he's got the right spirit. Like, yep. This dude was fucking on fire for liberty, and he was the basest motherfucker there probably ever was.
Yeah, so hardcore. Here, let's do the piece. We can talk more about the impact and everything.
Well, I wanted to ask you first off, to lead into it. Well, why do you think you embody Louis Ling?
I think I do because I am willing to die. I mean, just to put it bluntly, and it's the difference between Louis Ling and I is that Louis seems to have really embraced it, whereas I'm taking it more begrudgingly. Like, yeah. I very much don't want to die. Whereas I think that Louis was like, if I fucking send a message, I'm happy to. And I don't feel that way. So, and I also don't want it to come across as if like I am a danger or I have any intentions of violence. I don't actually, but very much in my heart, I feel that if it gets to the point of totalitarianism where it requires violence, then I'll do what I have to do. So,
which, I mean, I don't remember the exact situation, but there was a lot of stuff going on. Like, I'm not a big history buff, but there was a lot of stuff going on at that time. And I think we forget that we get sucked in our own little history bubble of our current time, and we don't think about how things were. And there was a lot of shit going on. Like, I've read pretty much almost the whole book at this point, and there are a few other people that were existing around the same time, and there was a lot of crazy shit going on at the time that weirdly very reminiscent of a way, but of our current times, but in like a this is what it could be. Like, I know we like to think that we have it real bad, and we kind of do, but there was a lot of crazy shit that happened around this time period. So, I mean, they kind of, in a sense, were kind of at that like, oh fuck type place. So
this was post Civil War, like Reconstruction period. Is that right?
He was 1886.
Okay, so
there was a lot of crazy stuff going on, and this was the time of Emma Goldman. There was also there was something that went on with the Rockefellers where they basically killed a bunch of people that were striking for pay. So it was like a little bit more socialist in a sense, like focusing on them. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on that time. But yeah, it was kind of a little bit I don't know. I like I said, I'm not a history guy, so this would be Thad's thing if I had him on, but I don't. So.
For sure.
But
yeah, I don't know much about that period. I mean, I haven't read a ton about it, but I think that this guy is definitely like a really profound figure for liberty in a period that we probably can't really relate to, where you have robber barons and things like that. But in its own right, we kind of have robber barons, but they're just part of the government now in a more overt fashion, or maybe. I don't know. Maybe it is the same. I don't know. Now that I'm talking about it, it kind of does feel similar.
No, it's funny. You see people like this, like characters like Louis Ling, and it really starts to make you realize that, like, because I mean, prior to like these past couple of years, we very much were in this like we were ANCAPs, and we kind of have that. A lot of us have this tendency of this Ayn Randian view of like of the capitalist or whatever, but then we, you start to realize that, oh shit, this isn't quite this clear-cut thing. Like, this narrative is only something that really developed in the past like year or two. I mean, there are people who would say it, but it was never like an emphasis, and it was kind of like a sidebar, So, I mean, really now we're starting to realize that some of our ANCOM buddies may have been onto some shit a little bit, and we kind of, out of spite, because we like to hate ANCOMs, just ignored it all, and to our detriment at this point, So,
I actually agree with that. I think that there are, I mean, it's funny because I don't feel like I actually have changed my opinion of valuing capitalism at all.
Mm-hmm. You oriented it a little bit, changed it. Yeah,
exactly. Like it just changed my perspective or vantage point when it comes to the existing kind of oligarchical business structures that exist. And I think that is kind of an eye-opening that I've had over the past few years that I didn't really expect. I mean, I knew that big business was very dominant. I knew that they used any competitive practices. I knew they used that the government to, lobby on their behalf and to implement regulations and restrictions and things of that nature to try and help increase their market share. But I just really didn't. I don't think I really fully embraced how fucked it all was.
Yeah, I think the narrative before now was that we were going communism. I don't know why that was the narrative, and I don't know how it caught us so off guard, because in retrospect, it's so obvious. But
I know, right?
Now we realize, like, oh fuck, it wasn't communism, it was fascism. Like that's the route. Like this is the route we're going. Yeah. So it's kind of a subtle differentiation, but it matters. So yeah. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and read the intro, because this is probably like this whole bit like starts out with a bang and ends with a bang. On May 4th, 1886, a still unknown person threw a bomb at a labor demonstration in Chicago's Haymarket Square. In the ensuing chaos, dozens were injured and several killed, including 7 police officers. As a result of this, 8 anarchists were arrested in connection as part of a conspiracy, even though most of them hadn't actually been there at the time. 4 of the men would later be hanged for the events, 2 sentenced to life and 1 to 15 years. Bombs were found in the 8th man's, Louis Ling's, home, for which his attorney's weak excuse was that Ling had the right to have bombs in his house. Through the ages, this has become popularized as Ling's supposed proclaiming, "I couldn't have thrown that bomb. I was at home making bombs," which that is like one of the most base things already. Ling could be regarded as the mythical Che Guevara figure of his day, with his outraged defiance at the court inspiring an entire generation of young revolutionaries. Rather than hanging, Ling smuggled a blasting cap into his prison cell and blew off his jaw, writing "Hooray for Anarchy" on the wall in German with his own blood before dying. All the Haymarket martyrs were posthumously pardoned, and a monument later raised in their honor. Already, fuck.
I got chills, actually. I mean, that is so fucking powerful. Like to actually have that level of conviction where as you're bleeding out, you use your own blood to write, like what? Unreal.
Yeah. And the context for those watching or listening now, this next, what's going to come is his speech, his literal speech he delivered to the court as they were sentencing him. So this is literally the words of a man who's going to his death. Well, actually, I want to say he may have already been sentenced at this point. I think he already knew what was going on at this point. I don't remember the exact context, but essentially this dude knew he's going to die. And instead of, trying to have any sort of concessions, he just stuck to his guns and doubled down, so
a man after your own heart.
Yeah. We were just talking about this entire power hour. All right. Court of Justice, the same irony with which you have regarded my efforts to win in this free man of America. He puts the free land of America in quotations. A livelihood such as humankind is worthy to enjoy. Do you now, after condemning me to death, concede me the liberty of making a final speech? I accept your concession, but it's only for the purpose of exposing the injustice, the calamities, and the outrages which have heaped upon me. You have accused me of murder and convicted me. What proof have you brought that I am guilty? Already starting out fucking, coming on hard. So
defiant.
Yeah. In the first place, you have brought this fellow Seliger to testify against me. Him I have helped to make bombs, and you have further proven with the assistance of another I took those bombs to number 58 Clybourne Avenue. But what you have not proven, even with the assistance of your bot squealer Seliger, who would appear to have acted such a prominent part in the affair, is that any of those bombs were taken to the Haymarket. A couple of chemists also have been brought here as specialists, yet they could only state that the metal of which the Haymarket bomb was made bore a certain resemblance to those bombs of mine, and your Mr. Ingham has vainly endeavored to deny that bombs were quite different. He had to admit that there was a difference of a full half-inch in their diameters, although he suppressed the fact that there was also a difference of a quarter of an inch in the thickness of the shell. This is the kind of evidence upon which you have convicted me. It is not murder, however, of which you have convicted me. The judge has stated that much only this morning in the resume of the case, and Grinnell has repeatedly asserted that we were being tried not for murder, but for anarchy. So the condemnation is that I am an anarchist. So, at this point, I think the point you can get from this is, I know we like to have this idea, and we were given this romantic idea from birth of hey, get your time in court, and they'll see the evidence and everything will work out. And especially we have this idea, especially with something like sending someone to death or to life, that, we have this fucking dramatized version or romanticized version in our head of like juries, and that like they would, they would be so fair and like, beyond a reasonable doubt. And even here, he's showing like he's already, saying, look at all this evidence is at fault. And then on top of that, because you guys didn't have the correct, this wasn't like it, you didn't have the evidence you needed. You then changed the legal, you changed the argument from whether I did this to the fact that I'm an anarchist, and because I'm an anarchist, I'm conspiring. So I don't know if you have any thoughts to develop on that.
Yeah, I actually think I viewed it a little bit differently. I took it as him saying, I mean, certainly what you said, but also that he doesn't recognize their laws. So there is, and this is actually kind of the point I've been making about the non-aggression principle, that like, if you're aggressed upon by the government, you don't have a right in our system to fight the government. Do you have a moral obligation? I would say yes. Do you have a moral green light? I would also say yes. So this is, I think that's kind of part of what he's saying there, is like regardless of the system, whatever they find him guilty or innocent, is kind of irrelevant, because he doesn't believe that the law that they're enforcing is just, because he was using violence against the violent arm of the state. So I can see it both ways.
Yeah. All right. What is anarchy? This is a subject which my comrades have explained with sufficient clearness, and it's unnecessary for me to go over it again. They have told you plainly enough what our aims are. The state's attorney, however, has not given you that information. He has merely criticized and condemned not the doctrines of anarchy, but our methods of giving them practical effect. And even here, he has maintained a discreet silence as to the fact that those methods were forced upon us by the brutality of the police. Grinnell's own proffered remedy for our grievances is the ballot and combination of trade unions. And Ingham has even avowed the desirability of a 6-hour movement. But the fact is that at every attempt to wield the ballot, at every endeavor to combine the efforts of working men, you've displayed the brutal violence of the police club, and this is why I have recommended rude force to combat the ruder force of the police. I have a feeling you have thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically the point I was making prior, is that
yes.
he's saying that he's just, essentially. I mean, that especially that last sentence where he says, you have displayed the brutal violence of the police club, and this is why I have recommended rude force to combat the ruder force of the police. I mean, that is, without dolling it up, that is basically a NAP violation. He's saying, you have aggressed upon me, I am defending myself, and as such, I don't believe that any of this is just.
Yeah. And I mean, anyone's been following for any period of time, you've probably heard me say, that the government by its existence is aggressing against you. I mean, now obviously there's a concern proportionality, but basically you are justified in responding morally. Now, obviously we may disagree on what's tactically intelligent, but so here, a lot of people have this romanticized version of the police. And I mean, in this situation, if they are attacking him and his comrades, it's they are fully morally in the correct in aggressing against them in any way that need be. Obviously, assuming they don't take out innocents, and they, but yeah.
That's been actually the most brilliant part of the past year and a half, is that instead of using brute force, they're not actually using the state like the police and the military very much. They're using psyops and social pressure. So it makes it much harder to identify the aggression as being overt. Because like, if you're forced to close your business because that like you will get fines, it doesn't mean that the cop is going to actually come around, unless you protest and you stay open and you're willing to pay the price. But it's still that threat of violence that hangs over you. So a lot of libertarians actually would argue that a business owner has no right to go out and mess with the cops over this, because there's no direct aggression. But it's coercive. It's extremely aggressive. Truly. I mean, because you're basically making it illegal for someone to make a living, to provide for their family. I mean, the only reason that people didn't riot, and I would have felt people were fully justified to do so had they chosen to, by the way, as long as it was targeted towards the people that were actually oppressing them. The only reason people didn't do it is because they have the power of the printing press, which is also aggressive, because it is debasing your savings, which are quickly dwindling via the lockdowns. So all the way around, it has been a massive overt NAP violation. Not this like broad based, the government exists, so that's a NAP violation. I'm saying the government is fucking you directly right now.
Yeah.
And
No.
and I think that people, libertarians in particular, fail to identify that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, this bit too brings to mind the riots as of late, after the George Floyd, because anyone who recalls this correctly, as I'm sure me and you do, but the violent individuals who are causing property damage and hurting individuals, generally the police stayed hands off. The ones where they did become violent were generally peaceful, unarmed crowds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that should tell you all you need to know. They're fucking cowards. And he's going to go into this later. The police are fucking cowards. Obviously, I'm speaking as a collective, but sure, the police as a collective are cowards. I'm sure there's brave ones out there. I mean, I would say that they've mistaken for having their job, which, I mean, I was active duty military, so I fully concede that that was immoral what I was doing, so, but not, it is wisdom. So I'm not saying this in a condemning way. What I did was immoral. So I mean, but anyways,
right.
Yeah.
You're still leaving a pathway to redemption. Like,
yeah.
It's not as if they're damned because they're a cop.
Yeah.
I mean, they may be damned if they killed somebody while they were a cop, or they may be damned for putting people behind bars for victimless crimes because they're a cop. But I still believe in redemption. I mean, I believe in redemption if you actually are a private citizen and you commit a serious atrocity. So obviously, I'm still going to offer that to the police as well.
Yeah. And this next bit kind of expounds more on what I just said. You have charged me with despising law and order. What does your law and order amount to? It's representatives of the police, and they have thieves in their ranks. Here sits Captain Shack. He has himself admitted to me that my hat and books have been stolen from him in his office. Stolen by police. These are your defenders of property rights. The detectives again who arrested me forced their way into my room like housebreakers under false pretenses, giving the name of a carpenter, Lorenz, of Burlington Street. They have sworn that I was alone in my room, therein perjuring themselves. You have not subpoenaed this lady, Miss Klein, who was present and could have sworn that aforesaid detectives broke into my room under false pretenses and their testimonies are perjured. But let us go further. In Shack, we have a captain of the police, and he has also perjured himself. He has sworn that I admitted to him being present at the Monday night meeting, whereas I distinctly informed that I was at a carpenter's meeting at Zepf Hall. He has sworn again that I told him that I also learned to make bombs for Hermos book. That also is a perjury. Let us still go a step higher among these representatives of law and order. Grinnell and his associates have permitted perjury, and I say that they have done it knowingly. The proof has been adduced by my counsel. With my own eyes, I have seen Grinnell point out to Gilmer, 8 days before he came upon the stand, the persons of the men whom he has to swear against me. While I, as I have stated above, believe in force for the sake of winning for myself and fellow workmen a livelihood such as men ought to have, Grinnell, on the other hand, through his police and other rogues, have suborned perjury in order to murder 7 men, of whom I am one. So, and if you have something to go after there?
I mean, no, I just think he's. It's just kind of like it's building. I just love this piece because it's a speech you can tell too, because it builds to a climax.
Yeah.
But he's just kind of laying the groundwork for how aggrieved he is, how wronged he was, and kind of justifying the stance he takes at the end.
Yeah, and I mean that was just once again, this leads to my context. The point up I brought earlier is like, if the state wants to get you, they will get you, one way or another. I mean, if you are someone that they feel has aggrieved against them as an institution, they will find a way to twist things to make it happen. And I mean, like I said, we have this romantic idea of law and order and how it works, and this is how it works.
Well, right perfect here. Example. Yeah. Perfect example is Guantanamo. I mean, those people that were responsible for 9/11, theoretically, most of them weren't, obviously, have been held without trial for fucking 20 years. Yeah. I mean, that is insane. And they only do that when you really, really fuck with their power structure. And I think that what you're seeing with the January 6th political prisoners, which I will definitely classify them as, they're being held, many of them in solitary confinement without trial, without hearings for fucking 9 months or however many months it's been now. It's atrocious. But the reason it happens, because you can be a drug dealer and they won't, if they can't get evidence, they won't like plant evidence all the time. I mean, certainly sometimes they will, but for the most part, you can, if you have a good attorney and you have money, you can defend yourself in this system, except for when you fuck with the state. Then they take the gloves off. All of the rules are basically transparent at that point, and you get to see the real fucking teeth behind this bitch.
Yeah, Ross Ulbricht. I mean, Guantanamo Bay, I mean, a lot of people make the case that like, oh, well, they're not necessarily foreign, there's, citizens, blah, 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 which, I mean, that's a bullshit argument. But Ross Ulbricht, fucking private citizen, they railroaded him at every turn. So
There you go.
if you go look into it, that's very much the case. But yeah, Grinnell had the pitiful courage here in the courtroom where I could not defend myself to call me a coward, which I like that. It's kind of like, the gall of anyone to call someone a coward when they have the entire establishment behind them. And like, I don't know, it's just a bitch move, really. The scoundrel, a fellow who has leagued himself with a parcel of base, hireling knaves, and brings me the gallows. Why? For no earthly reason save a contemptible selfishness, a desire to rise in the world, to make money, forsooth. This wretch, who by means of the perjuries of other wretches is again going to murder 7 men, is the fellow who calls me coward, and yet you blame me for despising such defenders of the law, such unspeakable hypocrites. Anarchy means no domination of or authority of one man over another, yet you call that disorder. A system which advocates no such order as shall require the services of rogues and thieves to defend it, you call disorder. Yeah, I do. That quote is great though. The anarchy means no domination or authority of one man over another, yet you call that disorder. And
I know.
Yeah, so that.
Well, it's funny because when I read that, I was thinking about hierarchy and Jordan Peterson,
Mhm.
and it's like, yeah, I mean there are times I think that there's a natural. This kind of gets you into a little bit deeper philosophical discussion, but
Good time.
yeah, I just think it's interesting that like I'm not. I guess I'm kind of a hierarchical anarchist, where I think that like there are reasons for natural hierarchy where one man might. I guess I wouldn't say rule over another, but certainly have more power. But I think that it's more just if it comes about organically. Whereas in our current system and in the system of every government that's ever existed, it's essentially power because of the monopoly on violence. So I guess that's kind of what I took away from that part.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I would say like domination or authority. Like, I agree with hierarchy entirely, or as well. So I mean, obviously, I feel like Ling probably might be one of those kinds that has disputes with hierarchy. But even in that context, domination or authority, you could. I mean, authority can be interpreted different ways, but generally that means
domination.
Like
domination would never be accepted for sure.
Yes.
And I like the last line. He says, a system which advocates no such order as shall require the services of rogues and thieves to defend it, you call disorder. I love it's. I mean, it's just like, it's flowery. It's like Shakespearean. It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, no, too. And I do like how he points out, which is that the cops, they're doing this for money. And he's doing this because of his love of liberty, essentially. So I mean, there's something to be said for that. I mean, while we may say he's misguided or whatever, there's something to be said for that.
Yep.
The judge himself was forced to admit that the state's attorney had not been able to connect me with the bomb throwing. The latter knows how to get around it, however. He charges me with being a conspirator. How does he prove it? Simply by declaring the International Working People's Association to be a conspiracy. I was a member of that body, so he has the charge securely fastened on me. Excellent. Nothing is too difficult for the genius of a state's attorney. That last line is great. Like, yeah, see,
you can feel the sarcasm dripping off those words.
Yeah, no, and I mean, what was I going to say? I do think there's something to be said there, as I've said multiple times, is the idea of the state will get you no matter what. The way the law is written, they can twist things so many different ways, because he just pointed out here that now they made it a conspiracy, and now they do this loose association with this group he's part of, and so on and so forth. So if they want to get you, they're going to get you. So and
also I just think that it's so tragic that this happened. I mean, given our rights of freedom of association, it's insane that we now have laws on the books like RICO and whatnot that allow them to basically charge people that haven't actually committed a crime, but being affiliated with others that have. It's completely antithetical to liberty.
Yeah. All right. It is hardly incumbent for me to review the relations which I occupy to my companions in misfortune. I can say truly and openly that I am not as intimate with my fellow prisoners as I am with Captain Shack. The universal misery, the ravages of the capitalistic hyena have brought us together in our agitation, not as persons, but as workers in the same cause. Such is the conspiracy of which you have convicted me. I did want to pause on that paragraph, and I do think, like we mentioned earlier, this is very reminiscent of modern day. He says the capitalistic hyena. Obviously, me and you would disagree on that, but the point he's getting at stands, especially in modern days. Like someone put in the things, no one gets killed for quitting Amazon. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously no one gets killed for quitting Amazon, but I would argue Amazon is a wing of the state.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, to some extent, I mean, not 100% of the state, but
Sure.
and that's kind of what he's getting at here. So yeah,
and all that it would require for us to agree with him is for him to change the word capitalistic to kleptocratic. Like, I think that if he were to just say the ravages of the kleptocratic hyena have brought up us together in our agitation, it's like, well, then I'm with you, brother. I just think that's where you get into semantics and differentiation of words that are used to describe these things. But yeah, I agree with you actually.
Yeah. All right. I protest against the conviction, against the decision of the court. All right. Now I want you guys to focus on this line because I love this line. I do not recognize your law, jumbled together as it is by the nobodies of bygone centuries. Fucking genius line. Great. Like, I mean, I don't know if you have any the riff on that, but it just stands alone, really. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's just glorious. I do not recognize your law, jumbled together as it is by the nobodies of bygone centuries. It's funny because I actually do have some affinity for, ancient writings, and obviously I very much appreciate the founding fathers' work and things like that. So, but I really appreciate the sentiment of it, especially like given the constitution of the Bible, like how it was actually put together, and I would say the same thing about the Bible. It's jumbled together as it is by the nobodies of bygone centuries. That's how the Bible was crafted. It was crafted by, I mean, sure, you could say that they were great men for their time, but ultimately, like, they left a whole bunch of shit on the cutting room floor. And it's like, if this is the word of God, how do you do such a thing? Shouldn't it just be like a full, just whatever you've gathered, you just put it out? So I kind of feel his energy there.
Yeah, no, I think it's unique in law because law is known for having like legal precedent in every decision. Like, so it's like, well, in this thing, this thing, and it kind of builds upon each other. And that's kind of like, yes, we do have great legal minds, but the way our legal system works is it compounds upon itself, which, I mean, you could probably apply this to other things. You sort of the government in general is like how this works. Like like you could be like Ron Paul's the shit, but it's like, okay, but what other politicians we got in there right now? It's like yes, we look back at the romanticize certain aspects, but it's like, especially with something like legal stuff, like they come together and the laws are crafted in such a way, or they have legal precedent to interpret it in such a way that it just compounds upon each other. And one person does a shitty decision that builds off another shitty decision, and so on and so forth. And like, you might have a good guy in there somewhere. So
I mean, it's the same concept as the police. If you have one good cop out of 100, would you not want to abolish that system? It's the same thing with politicians. If you have one good politician, if you have one Ron Paul for 99 other fucking scumbags, you go, yeah, we're going to abolish this. Like, like Ron can go and do something else. We don't need him in this position of power. Let's just get the rest of these psychopaths out of power. I love the energy in this one. Yeah.
And I do not recognize the decision of the court. My own counsel have conclusively proven from the decisions of equally high courts that a new trial must be granted us. The state's attorney quotes 3 times as many decisions from perhaps still higher courts to prove the opposite. And I am convinced that if in another trial, these decisions should be supported by 21 volumes, they will reduce 100 in support of the contrary if it is anarchists who are to be tried. Which, I mean, that's, once again, just building off prior shit I said, and the way the legal system works and how they can interpret it, how they want. They have all these legal precedent, and they can kind of choose which to pay attention to and which not. So you have this convoluted mess that is our fucking legal system in the United States, or in general. This is how most legal systems work.
Oh, and the fact that they come down on anarchists as hard as they do tells you everything you need to know about who they're really concerned about. Because, I mean, those are the people that don't believe in the power of the state. That is a direct affront to their power structure.
Yeah. And not even under such a law that a schoolboy must despise, not even by such methods have they been able to legally convict us. They have suborned perjury to boot. All right. And now these last 2 paragraphs, I want you to read, because these are the 2 most powerful ones. And this is for you.
Let's hit it. I tell you frankly and openly, I am for force. I have already told Captain Scheck, if they use cannons against us, we shall use dynamite against them. I repeat that I am the enemy of the order of today. And I repeat that with all my power, so long as breath remains in me, I shall combat it. I declare again, frankly and openly, that I am in favor of using force. I have told Captain Check, and I stand by it. If you cannonade us, we shall dynamite you. You laugh. Perhaps you think you'll throw no more bombs, but let me assure you, I die happy on the gallows. So confident am I that the hundreds of thousands to whom I have spoken will remember my words. And when you shall have hanged us, then mark my words, they will do bomb throwing. In this hope do I say to you, I despise you. I despise your order, your laws, your force propped up authority. Hang me for it. Damn it, I fucked up that last line, but it's fucking great.
Yeah, it's still great. No, yeah, that and these are the words of a man going to his death, which is
Power.
glorious.
Power.
Yeah, and there's something to be said there where he goes on about how his name will ring through history, and by the demonstration of this very day, it has.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something to be beautiful for that, to say for that. And I'm very much one that probably would criticize the concept of martyrs. And you've talked on this before. I think generally speaking, it doesn't work out the way that people want them to. Like what you might have like 1 out of every 100 person who's doing the martyr thing ends up actually legitimately being a martyr. But when you do get it, you fucking get it. So like,
yeah,
I mean, there's definitely power there.
And I think people misunderstood what I meant by that is like, like it is. And I've already covered this plenty, so I'm not even trying to defend myself. I just want to express it a little bit differently. Is that, you know, I guess the point that I was really trying to make is if you're going to die for something, make it great, you know, like make it a really beautiful thing. And I think that's how many soldiers feel, you know, going into battle too. It's like historically they would talk about a glorious death. You know, I can only hope, but for a glorious death. Like this was a genuine toxic masculinity trait shared by many men through many civilizations for eons. I mean, basically, as long as human beings have existed, there's been a warrior spirit, and I feel like that courses through many ANCAPs and many anarchists that, you know, we believe what we believe in strongly, and we believe in not being dominated. And if we have to fucking take people out to maintain our liberty, then we shall, you know, like that's the energy. And I love the defiance of it. I mean, to know the context of this speech, to know what he's facing and to still say it with such conviction, you are a true motherfucking believer at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and like I said before, this is something I did identify like in a younger me. Now I'm older. I have a family. I wouldn't probably see things in the same way. I don't see the utility in it, but very much like from a willing to be a warrior for liberty. Like that's why I joined the military. That's what I thought was going to happen. But had I been philosophically more in line with what I am now at a younger age, I could see myself standing right next to Magnus Pinvidia, fucking ready to fucking burn the motherfucker down. So right. Yeah, because I genuinely have, like, I know a lot of people may get the impression that I'm like, because I do say that it's dumb to do political violence, you know, but I very much like if I ever see, my only qualms is that we don't have the infrastructure for it to be successful. If we did, it'd be like, okay, let's fucking go, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, I view it a little differently in that if I knew the future, you know, like if I knew that we were headed towards a North Korea totalitarianism, I would fight right now, you know, just being honest. My hope is that cooler heads can prevail, that we can actually work through this, not necessarily through political means, but through kind of a societal upheaval where we can actually have so many people wake up and say, fuck you, no more, that we don't actually end up in the violent, you know, death spiral. Because ultimately war violence begets more violence. Like I'm not a violent person. I'm not really interested in violence. I'm just saying, like, if I knew that violence was going to be brought upon my family by the state, I would have no choice but to act immediately. I mean, that's how I view it. It's as crystal clear as that. But it's not crystal clear because I don't know the future. So that's the only reason that I continue to speak into a microphone as often as I do, and the reason that I've maintained patience in under the the glare of a fucking potential totalitarian state.
Yeah, and there was something Jared from End Democracy or hopping.org, I believe, said the other day, I think on Tower Power Hour. He said that because we were talking about this very subject. He said like someone asked him this question, like when you would do it. And I kind of jokingly said like when we have the infrastructure. And then he said, yeah, you're 100% right. But he goes, but for every man there needs to be a line, and like it regardless of that, and I completely agree with that. So I just think everyone's line is different. Like young me with no family, nothing to lose, it would take very little. The state fucks with me 1 little inch, I'm gonna fuck you up. But like now me, that line is probably my family. Like, and it like, because obviously like if I pursue some sort of action that's going to put them in jeopardy, I'm not going to do it. But if I feel like an action of violence is going to prevent them from being in jeopardy, I will kill every fucking pig. Like I don't give a shit.
Well, see, this is the other thing that I always try and keep perspective on, is that like, I know that most of the people that work for the state are not actually my enemy.
No,
like they're not. They are misguided, but they're probably good people. And I try and maintain that perspective even when I talk about the police or the military or anything else, because I've known a ton of soldiers and I like a lot of them. I love a lot of them. I think they're fucking awesome people. So it's very hard for me when there are no clear lines. This isn't an invading army. It's not. If China, if we had UN helmets marching past my front lawn, I'd be like, here we go. Yeah. It'd be real simple. But that's not where we're at right now. So because of that, because it's so obfuscated, the tyranny is very unclear and unclean. You really have to be patient. Like you have to be cautious with this. And that's why I encourage people to be patient, despite the fact that we were locked in our fucking houses for 18 months and our forefathers would have absolutely revolted. We don't live in that society. We don't have that culture, unfortunately. So we have to bide our time.
Yeah, that's very much the perverse aspect of the state. But there is also that aspect of when they're at your door and you're being Duncan Lemped in the middle of the night, I don't give a fuck how nice you are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, of course. Yes. I'm certainly not saying that. Yeah. I'm just saying, for the most part, I don't think most of the police are going to be doing that to us. No. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some, because there certainly are.
It certainly happened, yes.
Yeah, they already are doing it. Daniel, what's his name? Daniel Shaver. My God.
Oh, yeah.
My God. I mean, if you want to see me at my most radical, have me watch that like 5 times in a row, back to back to back, and then ask me what I want to do. I mean, like I am unhinged after watching that video.
Dude, the Duncan Lemp one. I mean, like, yes, Shaver one's fucked, but like, I know maybe just because I'm a father, but like the Duncan Lemp one fucked me up so hard. Like that dude, literally, his girlfriend was pregnant with their child, and so he didn't even get the satisfaction of holding his child. Because I mean, any fathers out there, like that was the most beautiful moment in my life, was holding my child the moment it was born. Like I've never been happier, and to think he was robbed of that, and that child was robbed of a father. Like, because I mean, now to some extent I can die happy. Like I've done what humans are meant to do. I've created a family. I've had children. I've had that experience. But Duncan Lemp was robbed of that. Mm-hmm. And that's still, like, even just thinking about that fucks with me. And then the fact that his wife, like, or girlfriend was there at the time just adds insult to injury. It's just, I don't know. It's just no,
I'll grant you. I mean, the story as we know it is far worse. We just don't have the egregious video of it to to actually see how terribly they treated Daniel Shaver. To give him Simon Says with a death penalty at the end of it is fucking insane. So had there been video of Duncan Lemp, I may feel totally differently, but just in terms of like visceral rage, nothing gets me going worse.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, that's just a personal, like, that just fucks with me, the Duncan Lemp thing. But yeah, I get a Shaver, and he also had a family too, Shaver.
He did.
So, which, I mean, it just something just was so fucked up about just the fact that he literally had a pregnant girlfriend that, like, she was months away from having their child. So that just was like, oh my God. It was they had such a beautiful moment in their life that just got destroyed.
And then there's one other that really fucks me up too, is I think his name was Fernando Castile. He maybe I have the first name wrong. I'm not sure.
I think the first name might be wrong, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the black guy that was carrying, and he was in the passenger seat when he got pulled over by this fucking fat pig that didn't understand anything about what he's supposed to be doing. And he tells them, I'm armed, and they just panic. They just panic and they shoot him in the fucking chest. And then there's this multi-minute long video of him bleeding out, and it's just so dark. And it's funny because I actually saw this video on Twitter this morning, and it was this guy This couple's in their house. It's like a Ring doorbell cam.
Mhm.
And this obviously mentally ill guy comes up to the front door and he just opens it and like pokes his head in. And thank God the dude's armed, because apparently the guy had a knife. And he runs outside, and he's holding his piece on him, and this crazy homeless dude starts to like backpedal, but he's still like taking his time. But the guy gives him a countdown. He shows better trigger control than a cop, a guy whose job it is to enforce law at the fucking business end of a gun. And it's just like, it's crazy to me that people that are in that position of power can't do it as well as a fucking random homeowner that's just armed. It's wild.
Yeah, no, people have this romantic view of the state, or people who do agree. They have this idea of how well trained they are, and I can tell you. I mean, I obviously never been a cop, but I literally did an episode with Typo way back when, and we kind of talked about like the military and how, in relation to like, because we were talking about like gun control, and how like there's always these veterans that come out and fucking be like, I was this blah blah blah. I mean, I was Air Force. I was a mechanic, so I didn't really have as much of a need. But I mean, I still had to get qualified. And Typo was a Marine, and it's a fucking joke. Like, the way the state works is they don't really necessarily care about results. They care about the perception of them. That's what they care about. They care about, like, with the, say for example, like with the rape problem and with the suicide problem in the fucking military. What do? Do they reduce the fucking the wars? Or do anything like that? No, they give you fucking a little slideshow you got to click through to say you got rape training, or you got fucking don't kill yourself training, like shit like that. So it's a fucking joke. That's all it is. It's, oh, we have a problem now, give me a box to check to say we dealt with it.
Yeah,
and that's what it is.
It's PR. It's not. Yes. It's not genuine reform. It's PR. It's like having an HR person that basically is, their primary job is to protect the company. It's not to protect the employees. It's not to actually stop sexual harassment or assault in the workplace. It's about fucking keeping them afloat. And it's the same way the military functions, and the police for that matter. Yeah.
All right. With that, I think we'll go ahead and drop plugs. You guys, if you want to drop any super chats, I'll address them now. If not, oh well. Give me money. That's cool.
At Liberty Lockpod on Twitter, Liberty Lockdown on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere else. Thank you for having me on, Jose. I hope I did Lewis proud.
Yeah, no, I think it turned out well. Do you want to say holler at the homie in the fucking chat? He doesn't have to do super chats because he's my fucking boy, TopLobsta. Go buy his fucking shit. I am No Way. This is the Jose Galison of the No Way Jose Show. I'm on YouTube, on all the major audio podcatchers. I'm on Odyssey as well. If you want to follow me on Twitter at Galison Jose, I have fun on there. If you want to give me money, patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. And like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And with that, we're out. I'm assuming you'll probably go over Tower Power if you guys want to head over there.
Let's hop over.
Yeah. All right. We're out of here.
Peace.